This is not your first time of being Secretary of Agriculture. Give us a sense of what's changed in the needs of farmers in particular from the first time you took this job until now.
Well, this is the first time I've had the opportunity to work at the Department of Agriculture when the country is facing a twin crisis, a healthcare crisis with a pandemic and an economic crisis for so many as a result of the pandemic. So that obviously changes the focus of the work at USDA, making sure that we're doing what we need to do to provide help and assistance to people. That's why the American Rescue Plan is so important to get passed, because it will give us the resources to be able to do that. For our farm families, they've gone through a very, very difficult period of time over the last couple of years with the trade war and then the pandemic. So it's making sure that we're providing the resources and creating new markets, better markets, and more markets. So at the end of the day, they have more profit.
So take that American Rescue Plan first, and exactly what the Department of Agriculture do to help that. One of the issues is the SNAP program. Some people call it food stamps, which are going to be expanded. This pandemic has certainly put a highlight on the food insecurity across the country. What needs to be done in the short term and, for that matter, in the longer term?
Well, first and foremost, there needs to be quick action by the Senate to provide the extension of the benefits, the SNAP benefits that have been increased recently. This will provide more help to 30 million American adults who are currently in the SNAP program and 14 million of our children. In addition, the plan will also provide for additional resources and expansion of opportunity under what is called the Pandemic EBT program. It's a combination effort to try to address the issue of families who have children that were in school, that were being fed school breakfast and school lunch, but now find themselves at home because school's closed. So this is providing those parents an additional financial help to sort of offset the increased food expense that they're going to have. So it's a combination of two things that can happen and need to happen quickly.
So as I understand it, there's the short term, specifically tied to the pandemic, but there's also longer term issues, and you are undertaking a review of the eligibility requirements and the nature of the SNAP Act. When will that review be done, do you expect?
Well, it's going to take a significant amount of time, probably roughly 10 months. Over the course of the next 10 months, we're going to take a deep dive into what is called the Thrifty Food Plan. It's the foundation upon which the SNAP benefits are calculated. It makes certain assumptions about the American family and their food preparation and their food costs. Frankly, this has not been looked at extensively for quite some time. So many of the assumptions just don't make sense in today's world. And I think that will ultimately result in us having to recalibrate the benefits to make and to adjust to higher costs and to a changing way in which Americans do feed their families.
As I said, the pandemic has really put a highlight on this challenge. But as you know so well, there was a fair amount of food insecurity, I would say surprising level in this country, the richest in the world, on food insecurity. How important could it be to the farmers? That is to say, if you did revise the SNAP program, how much income could that provide farm families?
Well, obviously, to the extent that that would result in an increase in the benefit under the SNAP program, it would result in the ability of people to buy more at the grocery store. And the more they buy, obviously, the more that needs to be stocked and shelved, packaged and processed and transported and grown. So it's everyone in the supply chain that would benefit from an increase in the SNAP program. Farmers in particular, they get roughly 15 cents of every food dollar. So every additional dollar that's spent at the grocery store, that means 15 cents more in the pocket of every American farmer. Critically important. And it's not just about food insecurity, it's also about nutrition insecurity. We have a significant challenge with reference to our diet in this country. 60% of us adults have at least one chronic disease, 40% of us have two or more chronic diseases. The diabetes, the cost to the federal government of diabetes is $160 billion alone. That's more than the entire budget of the USDA on an annual basis. So, and all of that's tied to diet. All of it's tied to the choices that we make. So it's in addition to providing help and assistance, we also want to make sure that healthy choices are available and that people are well informed about how to make those healthy choices.
The prior administration had a fair amount of money going to farmers specifically to make up for some of the losses they had because of some of the trade wars with China. Taking that away now, can you refill the storehouses for the farm families in other ways? Because there are projections that, in fact, farm income will necessarily go down because you won't have those federal subsidies.
Well, to the extent that we increase markets, better markets, more competitive and open and transparent markets, new market opportunities with reference to climate, paying farmers for sequestering carbon, paying farmers to convert agricultural waste into a variety of products creates new opportunities. So that would offset the need for additional federal assistance. And so it's something that the Department of Agriculture needs to be focused on, transforming our food system by obviously increasing the focus on nutrition insecurity and also increasing the opportunities for farmers with these additional markets. It's an exciting time, actually, at USDA, notwithstanding the challenges we face, because I think it does provide a new opportunity for us to remake not only the farm economy, but also the rural economy.
Talk about climate a little bit, because in your first formal address after getting your position as Secretary of Agriculture this time, you said that you thought there were some early wins to be gotten there in your speech. What are those early wins? What are you looking at?
Oh, redirecting the conservation programs to encourage more carbon sequestration, more climate smart and regenerative agricultural practices will help farmers. It will provide additional resources and support. Looking at the possibility of establishing a thing like the carbon bank that would essentially pay farmers for the sequestering of carbon, and making sure that the design of a carbon bank is really focused and designed for farmers and by farmers, as opposed to some of the other ecosystem markets that are beneficial to investors, but not as beneficial to landowners and to farmers. This is a terrific opportunity for us to make sure that we make good on President Biden and Vice President Harris's pledge to get us to a net zero emission agriculture by the year 2050. Why is that important? Because the market is demanding it. Both domestically and internationally, we're going to continue to have difficulty selling what we grow if we can't prove that it's been sustainably produced. A net zero emission agriculture would put us in a position, I think, a competitive position, both domestically and internationally, to sell more.
To get us to that net zero goal, should we have carbon markets in this country?
Well, I think the focus of USDA is going to be on establishing incentive programs, trying to create market opportunities through a carbon bank to find out what works and what doesn't work. We have a series of ecosystem markets now, but they've been primarily designed for investors as opposed to the farmers. To the extent that we create one that is beneficial to farmers, I think there'll be a real interest in participating. I think American agriculture is ready for this. They're anxious to participate. They have always been stewards of the land and water. This will give them an additional opportunity to do so, but also a new revenue stream that will complement the sale of whatever it is they're producing on the farm. And if you also create opportunities for the conversion of agricultural waste into a variety of products, that creates yet another product, if you will, that they can sell. Now they've got multiple income sources, so it may not matter what may happen from time to time on commodity prices, because they'll be able to have a broad array, a diversification, if you will, of their income sources.
When you talk about early wins, do you have a time frame in mind? When could we actually see some results?
Well, we're obviously going to get focused on this in the first year of the Biden-Harris administration and do what we can to get things started. It's going to take a little while for us to listen to folks who are going to give us input. The president has signed an executive order directing us to have that conversation with farmers to get a sense of what they want and what they think will work. And then it's a matter of identifying the resources and creating the structure and then getting it implemented. We are going to be very aggressive on this because we have no time to waste.
Mr. Secretary, you referred to the possibility of really opening up markets, having more sales internationally of a U.S. agricultural product to make up for some of the loss of the federal subsidies. What do you have in mind specifically, and particularly with respect to China? What about that Phase 1 agreement? Are we going to stick to that?
Well, our hope is that China eventually gets to the point where they're purchasing as much as they promised to purchase under Phase 1. Not sure that they're going to make it in the first year, but the reality is they have obviously increased purchases, and that's obviously supported commodity prices. We've seen better commodity prices for the first time in a number of years. So that's good news. Understand that the China relationship is always tenuous. There are many, many factors and many layers to that relationship that can impact and affect what China decides to do. That's why it's important for us not to put all of our eggs, if you will, in that basket. It's necessary for us to continue to look for new markets and deeper markets. I think we can use the resources at USDA to continue to promote deeper presence in markets all around the world, more people, more promotions, more partnerships, ways of making sure that the American message, if you will, the American brand understands the market and is playing in the market appropriately. If we diversify, then I think it will see additional exports. Additional exports obviously means better income for farmers.
You know this business so terribly well. Are there particular regions, at least the world, that you think are the most promising?
Short term, we obviously want to maintain relationships here in our own hemisphere and making sure that the United States the USMCA agreement, the trade agreement with Mexico and Canada is implemented the way it was intended. And we obviously want to take a look at Asia, and particularly Southeast Asia, as a growing opportunity in addition to China, maintain our relationships in Japan and Korea. But I think long term, we also, I think, need to put a stake, if you will, in Africa, because one half of the increase in the world's population in the next 15, 20 years is going to come in that continent. We want to be in a position to be able to take advantage of opportunities that may be created there as well.